It's like I feel like a ghost. Like, you know, I can hear everyone around me, but, you know, I can't even see my own hand in front of my face. I can't even, when I hear my kids, I can't, sorry, I can't see their faces.
On a quiet spring evening in Cornwall, an unimaginable act of violence unfolded that would haunt a woman and shock the nation. Shane Jenkin, a man with a history of erratic and abusive behaviour, committed one of the most grotesque crimes in British history against his then-girlfriend, Tina Nash. The brutality of his actions left a permanent mark not only on Tina's life, but also on public consciousness, as a grim reminder of the dangers of unchecked domestic violence. Tina Nash, a loving mother of 2 young boys, met Shane Jenkin in what she hoped would be the beginning of a brighter future. Initially, Jenkin seemed charming, attentive, and eager to be part of her life. When Tina met Jenkin, he pushed her relentlessly until she agreed to meet him. As the months passed, Jenkin began to exhibit controlling behaviours. He isolated Tina from her friends and family, sowing seeds of doubt and dependency. His charm quickly gave way to possessiveness, and his temper flowed over the smallest of perceived slights. Friends and family expressed concerns about his behaviour, but Tina found herself trapped in a cycle of emotional manipulation and fear. Jenkin's history of violence was no secret. He had prior convictions for violent offences and was known for his erratic outbursts. Despite these red flags, he used Tina's vulnerabilities to maintain control over her. Like many victims of domestic abuse, she hoped he would change, clinging to the fleeting moments of calm that punctuated his otherwise destructive behaviour. It was not long before the violence and beatings began, and at one point he threw Tina down the stairs. Thinking she could change him, Tina stayed, even defending him in court. She said, "I always thought women were silly for sticking with men that hit them. I didn't understand it, but then when it happened to me and he blamed me, I made excuses for him and became just like them. It took me far too long to realise I was a victim. I only realised after he took my side." On April 20th, 2011, Shane Jenkin's violent tendencies culminated in an act of unimaginable cruelty. That evening, the couple argued in Tina's home, an all too familiar occurrence. But this time, Jenkin's anger escalated beyond anything Tina had experienced before. Over the course of 12 agonising hours, Jenkins subjected Tina to a prolonged and sadistic assault. He gouged out her eyes with his bare hands, rendering her permanently blind. The violence didn't stop there. He attempted to strangle her, leaving her unconscious at one point. Tina later described the incident as a living nightmare, an ordeal so horrific it defies comprehension. When Tina awoke, she was in total darkness, disorientated and in excruciating pain. She realised the extent of the attack. She was wrapped tightly in a duvet. She reached up to her face. Her eye was swollen shut, her left was freed from its socket and resting on her cheek. For the next few hours, he held her captive, tormenting her verbally and at one point, throwing her in the bathtub, which had filled with water. Tina was convinced at this point that she was about to be drowned. Jenkin, showing no remorse, refused to call for help. He left her to suffer in silence, trapped in her own home and unable to see the world around her. It was after 7 a.m, more than 8 hours after the attack had started, and around the time when her 2 children were waking up, that Jenkin allowed Tina's son to run to her grandmother's house nearby to get help. Tina was rushed to hospital. Medics initially hoped they might be able to save one of her eyes, but unfortunately they weren't able to save her sight, and the emotional physical scars of the attack would remain with her for the rest of her life. The aftermath of the attack was devastating. Tina's blindness left her entirely dependent on others for even the most basic tasks, a cruel twist of fate for a fiercely independent mother. The psychological toll was immense, as she struggled to reconcile the person she once loved with the monster who had destroyed her life. Shane Jenkin was arrested and charged with grievous bodily harm with intent. The police said the attack was the most shocking they'd ever seen. During his trial, the court heard chilling details about his history of abuse and the calculated nature of the assault. Truro Crown Court heard that Jenkin had watched a DVD featuring eye gouging the night before the attack. Witnesses described him as a man with a history of extreme possessiveness and violent outbursts, painting a picture of someone who had thrived on control and intimidation. In May 2012, Jenkin was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 6 years before being eligible for parole. The sentence sparked outrage amongst the public, who felt it did not adequately reflect the severity of his crime. Many called for stricter sentencing guidelines for domestic abusers, arguing that Jenkin's punishment paled in comparison to the lifelong impact on Tina. Tina will never see the face of her children again, who were aged 3 and 13 at the time of the attacks, and were forced to give up on her dream of being a nurse. She has become a recluse, trying to push on through the trauma and live her life as best she can. One of the few sources of comfort for Tina was knowing that Jenkin was firmly behind bars, locked up in a maximum security prison. But Jenkin is a step closer to walking free. Authorities approved his transfer to an open prison, a move that usually means a prisoner is being prepared for release. Tina said, "I'm living in fear of this beast turning up, but why should I be the one worried? And why can I not live in peace? His eyes go black when he turns. He has no feelings. There is no empathy in him. He's just a monster. And if he's released, he will kill. It's as simple as that." Jenkin has made multiple applications for parole, which have all failed. But now with his planned transfer to the Category D prison, Tina's fear that Jenkin will return to Cornwall. Tina said, "I know he regrets not finishing me off." Despite the horrors she endured, Tina Nash emerged as a symbol of resilience and strength. Determined not to let Jenkin's actions define her, she began the arduous journey of rebuilding her life. With the support of family and community, she learned to navigate the world without sight, demonstrating remarkable courage and determination. In the years following the attack, Tina became an advocate for domestic violence awareness. She shared her story publicly, hoping to inspire others to recognise the warning signs of abuse and seek help before it was too late. Her advocacy work brought attention to the often hidden epidemic of domestic violence and the urgent need for systematic change. In interviews, Tina spoke candidly about her experiences. "I may have lost my sight, but I haven't lost my life," she said. Her unwavering determination to move forward inspired countless others, proving that even in the face of unimaginable trauma, it is possible to find hope and purpose. The case of Shane Jenkin and Tina Nash serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of domestic abuse and the importance of early intervention. It underscores the need for stronger support systems for victims and stricter monitoring of individuals with a history of violence. Tina's story also highlights the importance of community involvement. Friends, family and neighbours play a crucial role in recognising the signs of domestic abuse and take action to protect those at risk. Her advocacy work has inspired legislative discussions and renewed calls for reform in how domestic violence cases are handled. Shane Jenkin's crime was an act of unspeakable cruelty, but Tina Nash's resilience in the face of unimaginable trauma remains a powerful testament to the human spirit. Her courage continues to inspire others to break free from cycles of abuse and find hope in even the darkest of circumstances. As a nation, her story reminds of us the urgent need to address domestic violence, protect its victims, ensure that justice is served for those who suffer at the hands of their abusers. Tina said, "If I could say one thing to any other woman making excuses for their abusive partner who might read this, it is, get out. It will not get better. No relationship is worth ruining your life over."